The shop stood alone on the edge of the town. It was a place forgotten by time and shrouded in perpetual twilight. Dust motes danced in the single sunbeam that pierced the gloom, illuminating a myriad of clocks. They ticked and tocked, whirred and chimed, each sound a whisper of eternity. This was the domain of Elias, the clockmaker. He was an enigma, a man spoken of in hushed tones and wary glances. His face, etched with the passage of time, held the secrets of countless hours. Elias lived for his craft. His fingers, gnarled and calloused, moved with the precision of a surgeon as he assembled delicate gears and springs. Each clock he created was imbued with a touch of magic, a fragment of time itself woven into its very essence. Some whispered secrets of the past, others chimed warnings of the future. But the most prized, the most dangerous, were the clocks that could control time's flow. The air within the shop was thick with the scent of aged wood and clock oil. It was intoxicating, a symphony of scent that spoke of forgotten ages and the relentless march of time. The shop was more than just a place of business. It was a sanctuary, a testament to the enduring power of time and the man who dared to master it. Thomas was drawn to the shop like a moth to a flickering flame. The allure of the ancient timepieces with their rhythmic ticking and tocking was something he couldn't resist. He was a young man, barely a man at all, with eyes full of wonder and a thirst for knowledge. His curiosity was insatiable, and his mind was a sponge, eager to absorb every bit of information about the world of clocks. Elias had taken him in, sensing the boy's innate curiosity and his reverence for the intricate dance of gears and springs. The old clockmaker saw potential in Thomas, a spark that could be fanned into a flame of mastery. Thomas became his apprentice, eager to learn the secrets of the clockmaker's art. He was determined to understand the delicate balance of timekeeping, the precision required to create a masterpiece. Day after day, Thomas toiled in the shadowed shop. The dim light cast long shadows, but it was in these shadows that he found his purpose. He learned to polish the brass gears until they gleamed like gold. Each gear was a piece of a larger puzzle, and he took pride in making them shine. He learned to identify the subtle differences in the chime of each clock. The nuances in sound were like a language, one that he was slowly beginning to understand. Most importantly, he learned to listen. To truly hear the stories each clock had to tell, he had to open his mind and heart. For the clocks, Elias taught him, had voices. They spoke in a language of ticks and tocks, a symphony of time that only a true clockmaker could decipher. They whispered tales of bygone eras and sang songs of moments yet to come. Each clock was a storyteller, and Thomas was becoming fluent in their language. Thomas was particularly captivated by the clocks that could manipulate time. These were no ordinary timepieces. They held a magic that defied the natural order. He would spend hours watching the sand trickle through the hourglass that could slow down time, mesmerized by the way it seemed to defy gravity and the passage of moments, or the pendulum of the grandfather clock that could rewind it. The pendulum's steady swing was like a heartbeat, a pulse that could turn back the hands of time. Each tick and tock filled him with a sense of wonder and a growing desire to understand the power they possess. The more he learned, the more he realized how little he knew. The more he learned, the more Thomas yearned to unlock the secrets of the most enigmatic clock in the shop. It was a mystery that consumed his thoughts, a puzzle he was desperate to solve. It sat on a pedestal draped in a velvet cloth, its secrets hidden from view. The clock seemed to call to him, its silence louder than any tick or tock. Elias never spoke of it, and he forbade Thomas from touching it. The old clockmaker's stern warnings only fueled Thomas's curiosity. But the forbidden, as always, held an irresistible allure. Thomas's hand would often hover near the velvet cloth, his fingers itching to uncover the mystery beneath. In his dreams, the clock would reveal its secrets, showing him visions of times long past and futures yet to come. The line between reality and fantasy blurred, and Thomas knew that one day he would uncover the truth. With a heart full of determination and a mind brimming with questions, Thomas continued his journey. The path of the apprentice was long and arduous, but he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For Thomas, the world of clocks was not just a profession, it was a calling, and he was prepared to dedicate his life to mastering the art of time. The clock was unlike any other in the shop. It stood out not just because of its age or design, but because of the aura it seemed to exude. It was as if the clock had a life of its own, a presence that demanded attention. It was a marvel of silver and glass, its intricate gears and shimmering pendulums visible through its transparent casing. The craftsmanship was unparalleled, each component meticulously placed to create a harmonious symphony of motion. It emitted a faint, ethereal hum, a sound that seemed to vibrate deep within Thomas's very being. This hum was not just a sound. It was a feeling, a resonance that seemed to connect with the very core of his soul. He just knew that this was the clock that could stop time itself. The idea seemed absurd, yet the conviction in his heart was unshakable. This clock held secrets that defied the very fabric of reality. One night, unable to resist the siren call of his curiosity any longer, Thomas crept into the shop. The air was thick with anticipation, every creak of the floorboards echoing his growing excitement and fear. The only light came from the moon, casting long, eerie shadows across the room. These shadows seemed to dance and shift, creating an almost otherworldly atmosphere that heightened his sense of adventure. His heart pounded in his chest as he approached the forbidden clock. Each step felt like a journey, a passage through time and space, bringing him closer to the unknown. His hand trembled as he reached out and grasped the edge of the velvet cloth. The fabric was soft, almost inviting, yet it held the weight of countless untold stories. He hesitated for a moment, his conscience warring with his curiosity. The rational part of his mind screamed to turn back, but the allure of the clock was too strong to resist. It was as if an invisible force was guiding his actions, compelling him to uncover the truth. With a swift movement, he pulled the cloth away, revealing the clock in all its mesmerizing glory. The clock seemed to glow faintly, its light pulsating like a heartbeat, drawing him in even further. It seemed to pulse with an otherworldly light, its gears turning with impossible precision. Each tick and tock was a testament to the clock's mysterious power, a rhythm that seemed to transcend time itself. As he gazed at the clock, Thomas felt a strange pull, a sensation that seemed to draw him in, beckoning him to unlock its secrets. It was as if the clock was speaking to him, whispering promises of knowledge and power. He reached out a trembling hand and touched the smooth surface of the glass. The contact was electric, sending shivers down his spine and igniting a spark of something ancient and powerful within him. In that instant, a jolt of energy surged through him, and he knew he had crossed a line he could never uncross. The sensation was overwhelming, a mix of fear and exhilaration, as if he had tapped into a force far beyond his understanding. The forbidden clock had revealed its true nature, and Thomas's life would never be the same again. The news reached the town like a cold wind, carried on whispers and fraught faces. The air was thick with tension, and every conversation seemed to end with a worried glance towards the river. The river, swollen by days of relentless rain, was rising. The once gentle stream had transformed into a roaring beast, its waters churning with an almost malevolent force. It had already breached its banks in the north, and the water was moving south with terrifying speed. Fields and roads were submerged, and the floodwaters showed no signs of slowing down. Panic gripped the townsfolk as they realized the gravity of the situation. Families hurriedly packed their belongings, children clung to their parents, and the streets were filled with the sounds of frantic preparations. Their homes, their livelihoods, their very lives were in danger. The floodwaters showed no mercy, sweeping away everything in their path. Thomas watched from the window of the clock shop as the townspeople scurried past, their faces etched with fear and desperation. He felt a pang of helplessness, knowing that he too was at the mercy of the rising waters. A knot of dread tightened in his stomach. The weight of the impending disaster pressed down on him, making it hard to breathe. He knew the town was ill-prepared for such a disaster. The infrastructure was old and the emergency plans were outdated, leaving the townspeople vulnerable. The flood walls were old, neglected, and no match for the raging torrent that was bearing down on them. Cracks had appeared, and water was already seeping through in places. He thought of the clock, the forbidden clock that could stop time. It was an ancient artifact shrouded in mystery and legend. If he could just stop the flood in its tracks, give the townspeople time to evacuate, he could save them. The idea seemed both impossible and tantalizingly within reach. The thought took root in his mind, growing with each passing moment. He could almost see the clock's hands turning back, the floodwaters receding, and the town being saved. It seemed like the only solution, the only way to avert the impending disaster. The more he thought about it, the more convinced he became that he had to try. But deep down, a sliver of doubt lingered in his mind. What if it didn't work? What if he made things worse? He remembered Elias's warnings about the dangers of meddling with time, about the unforeseen consequences that could ripple through the fabric of existence. Elias had always been cautious, almost fearful of the clock's power. But the urgency of the situation, the fear he saw in the eyes of the townspeople, drowned out his better judgment. He couldn't stand by and do nothing while his friends and neighbours faced such peril. The clock was his only hope, and he had to take the risk.